Hello aspirants, welcome to EPITOME IAS. This is Mansoor. So we have started this NCERT geography series. So as a part of this series, so far we have completed 5 chapters from class 6th NCERT, and today we are going to see the 6th chapter, and this 6th chapter talks about our country. So in this particular chapter, we will be seeing what are the important features that India is having, what are the physical features that India have, how is the climate variation that is present in India, and what about the population that is present in India. So all these basic things were introduced in this particular chapter. Okay, so without any delay, we will be going to the first page of this particular chapter. If you see here, in this chapter, as I told you earlier, this is an overview of our country, India. So what is the latitudinal extent, what is the longitudinal extent, and we will be seeing what are the boundaries that India is having on its 4 sides. Okay, so if you see here, if you take India, so we know that India is a subcontinent, and India, if you see the boundaries that India is having, to the eastern side of India we have Bay of Bengal, and to the southern side of India, almost we have Indian Ocean, and to the western side of India, we are having Arabian Sea, and towards the north, we are having Himalaya mountains. Okay, so these are the boundaries that India is having, and if you see here, the 3 sides of India is covered with water. Okay, the only one side we are having the Himalayan mountains, and then, so if you see the entire area that India is covered, so the entire area, the aerial extent, or else entire area that India is covered, it is nearly 3.28 square kilometers. Okay, and from north to south, if you take from here, if you take from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the distance is 3,200 kilometers. And if you take from west to the east, west from Ran of Kutch to the eastern side of India, that is Arunachal Pradesh, if you take, the distance will be horizontal distance, horizontal extent or horizontal distance will be 2,900 kilometers. So if you see particularly, more or less the horizontal distance or else the vertical distance are same. The difference is only some 300 kilometers. And if you see in India, we will be having a lot of mountains, and India is having a desert, and India is having plains, India is having plateaus. So you will be seeing all kind of land features, physical features in India. Then if you see the location setting, if you see the north to south and east to west locational setting, that is, if you see the latitudinal extent or the longitudinal extent of India, for suppose first we will be seeing the longitudinal extent. So from north to south, if you calculate the latitudes, in north we will be having 88 degrees, in south we will be having 8 degrees 4 minutes north latitude, and to the north, that is to the Kashmir, above Kashmir to the north, the longitudinal extent is 37 degrees 6 minutes north latitude. And if you take west to east extension, you will be seeing that towards western side you will be having a 68 degrees 7 minutes east longitude, and towards the west, towards the east, it will be 97 degrees 25 minutes east longitude. So this is a latitudinal extent from north to south, and longitudinal extent is 67 degrees 7 68 degrees 7 minutes east longitude, and 97 degrees 25 minutes east longitude. And if you see here, usually we understood that in order to set the time, or in order to know the time, we usually follow longitudes. So if you see the longitudinal extent of India, if you compare this western side longitude with the eastern side longitude, the difference would be 29 degrees. Okay, so what is the relevance of this longitudinal extent? So for suppose we know that for every 1 degree, that is we are changing longitudinally, so the time will be changing 4 minutes. So for 1 degree the time will be changing 4 minutes. For suppose if you see here, we came to we understood that from the most part to the easternmost part, the longitudinal distance, the longitudinal extent is difference is 29 degrees. So that means what would be the difference between the time in general? So 29 into 4. So somewhat around, let us consider this as 30, 12, 120 minutes. So nearly approximately some 115 minutes to, or else if you want to calculate exactly, it is 116 minutes. So from westernmost part to the easternmost part, if you are going by longitudes, the difference will be 116 minutes. Okay, that means for suppose in the easternmost part, that is in Arunachal Pradesh, for suppose the time is 6 a.m. So usually what should happen? What should happen on westernmost part? This westernmost point should be 116 minutes behind this 6 a.m. Okay, why? Because the sun rises in the east, and we know that earth will be rotating from west to east. So that is why the day starts from the east and it will be ending in the west. So this is the easternmost part and this is the westernmost part. So when sun is rising, obviously the first place to get that sunlight will be the easternmost part of India. So from there, if you compare the time, so when this easternmost part of India is having a 6 a.m, so at that point of time, if we go by longitudinal extent, how much time should be, what should be the time at the westernmost part? It should be 116 minutes lesser. Okay, that means it should be somewhat 2 hours difference should be there. That means if it is 6 o'clock here, in westernmost part it should be 4 o'clock. Okay, 4 a.m. So here the point is, see, if you are going by longitudinal extent, there will be many changes in the time. So that is why what we did is, we fixed one particular longitude. So we fixed 82 degrees and of east degree longitude, and we have taken that particular longitude, and entire India will be following the time of that particular longitude. For suppose if you take 82 degrees and of east longitude, let us consider this is an 82 degrees and of east longitude. So the difference will be somewhat 15 degrees, some 15 odd degrees. So how much time should be there? For suppose if you are going by what will be the time near 82 degrees and of east longitude, the time will be, if the time at easternmost point is 6 a.m, then the here time will be 15 into 4 degrees, 15 for the 60, 1 hour difference will be there. So the time here will be 5 a.m. So now what we are doing is, even though the time in easternmost longitude is 6 a.m, so now for in order to make the entire country as a single unit, we are considering the time which is near this 82 degrees and off. So then what happens? Then what happens is, the entire India will be having will be following the time of 5 a.m. Even though here we have 6 o'clock, even though here we are having 4 o'clock, we will be following the time that is 6, that is 5 a.m. So the point here is, see, every country will be having the longitudinal extent. So even we studied that Russia is having major time zones, and even different countries, they follow different time zones. Okay, we know that entire earth was divided into 24 time zones. Okay, that was given in this chapter. Then, and we are calling that 82 degrees and half east longitude as Indian standard time, the time which is near this 82 degrees and off, we call it as an Indian standard time. And the longitude, this particular longitude, it is called as standard, it is called as standard meridian of India. It is called as standard meridian of India. Okay, so this is also the basic point to be remembered. Okay, and if you see the neighbors of India, so if you look into this map, by seeing into this map, we can understand that on the northern side we are having Himalayas, and we are on the northern side we are having land boundaries with the different countries. So now if you compare, if you see what are the countries that we are having boundaries with is, so first of all, if you see from the eastern side, so first country we are having a boundary with is Pakistan, second Afghanistan, then third China, then fourth Nepal, then fifth Bhutan, then sixth Bangladesh, and seventh Myanmar. So India is having boundaries with 7 neighboring countries. Okay. Yes. And here if you see in this India map, you will be finding Sri Lanka. Okay, Sri Lanka will be at the bottom of the India map, and the path which divide Sri Lanka and India, that particular strait we call it as an Park. We call it as an Park Strait. So in last class we have learned that the division between North America and South America. So there we have seen Isthmus of Panama. In the same way, we will be having this Park Strait. There, the Isthmus of Panama is connected. We can we can see. From outer space, we can observe that Isthmus of Panama. But this Park Strait was connected internally. Okay, we can't see that. But the division between India and Pakistan, India and Sri Lanka is done by this Park Strait. Okay. And if you see here in India, we are having a majority of the rivers. So in northern India, we will be finding Brahmaputra, Ganga, and here we will be finding the 5 tributaries of Indus River. And in the southern part of the India, we will be finding Godavari, Krishna, and in the central part, we will be finding Narmada, Tapi, and Mahanadi rivers. Okay. And if you see the physical division, that India is having, physical division or physical features that India is having, first of all, India is having Himalayas. India is having Himalayas, and India is having a desert. We call that desert as Great Indian Desert or Thar Desert, Great Indian Desert. And India is having a plains, and India is having in this plains itself, we are having coastal plains, and India is having plateaus, and India is having islands. Okay. So now if you see Himalayas, we know that to the northernmost part of India, we are having Himalayas. From north to it will be covering up to east. From north to it will be covering up to east. That means from northern states to we will be seeing this Himalayas. For suppose see here from Jammu and Kashmir, then Himachal Pradesh, then Sikkim, then Arunachal Pradesh, and even this part of India is also having the extension of continuation of Himalayas. Okay. Now, if you see these Himalayas, generally for understanding purpose, we have divided Himalayas into 3. So, if you see the division in this Himalayas, the division was done like, see, in Himalayas, the first range or the topmost range, we call it as an higher Himalayas or Great Himalayas, or we call it as an Himadri Himalayas or Himadri Himalayas. The second range, I mean, next to Himadri Himalayas, we will be having Middle Himalayas, or these particular Himalayas are called as Himachal Himalayas. This range is called as Himachal Himalayas. Then the third range is Shivaliks. So the point to be noted here is, see, we are dividing the entire Himalayan range into 3 zones. So from the north to south, this division has done from north to south. So to the northernmost Himalayas, those Himalayan ranges were called as Himadri Himalayas or Greater Himalayas. The middle Himalayas, we call it as Himachal Himalayas, and the lesser Himalayas, which is below that Himachal Himalayas, we call them as Shivaliks. Okay. And here what happened is, from these Himalayan mountains, there are certain rivers which were generated, and particularly Brahmaputra river is one of the important river that is originated from Himalayas, as well as this Ganga river and even Indus river. Okay. So what happens is, these rivers generally bring alluvial deposits through them. So what is meant by alluvial deposit? Alluvial deposit is nothing but so when a river is flowing, if there are any stones in between the path of the river, so through the flow of this river, those bigger stones or bigger mountains will be turned into small pieces, okay, small granules. So at a point, what happens is all these granules or all this dust which is coming from the mountains, they all are gathered at a place, and we call that gathering of all those particles as alluvial deposits. So what is the specialty of these alluvial deposits? These alluvial deposits are very fertile. So not only the mountain small pieces, so even you will be finding the dried leaves or else the dried mass which is decomposed or which is created in the mountains. So that is very important. And the next important thing is Indian desert. So if you see this Indian desert, you will be finding on the western side of the India. So majoritarily you can see this Indian desert in Rajasthan, okay. And this Indian desert is very dry and it is hot, as well as we will be finding lot of sandy stretches. And next important point is peninsular plateau, okay. So if you see, or else we will go by this order, the next important thing is plains. So here if you observe these plains, majority of the plains, okay, if you take in North India, you will be finding Ganga plains, you will be finding Ganga plains, and you will be finding Brahmaputra plains. Brahmaputra plains. What is meant by Ganga plain and Brahmaputra plain? So it is nothing but Ganga plain is nothing but the plain which is formed because of this Ganga river, and the plain which is formed because of this Brahmaputra river. This is North India. And in the south we will be having Godavari plains, Godavari basin, and Krishna plains or Krishna basin, and some other important river basins. So here the point is because of this availability of fertile soils which was generated or which was created from these rivers, those particular places are very highly fertile. So generally what happen is, usually if you see, the population will be very dense near plains, because those lands are very fertile, those lands are very easy to communicate, okay. You can easily construct roads, you can easily construct railway lines, you can easily construct airports. So if you take entire earth, so the majority of the population will be accumulated near plains, okay. So even in India, Ganga and Brahmaputra plains, mostly Ganga plains are highly populated. So if you take the most populous state in country, that is Uttar Pradesh, you will be having this huge amount of population because of presence of this Ganga plains. And then the next important point is coastal plains. So what about these coastal plains? See, coastal plain is nothing but, if you see India here, if you see the India map, so in India map you can easily find out that in southern side of the India you are having Western Ghats and you are having Eastern Ghats. So from Western Ghats to Arabian Sea we will be having some land, okay. That particular land we call as an Western coastal plain, and from Eastern Ghats and up to the sea we will be having some plains, and these plains we call it as an East coastal plains. And even these plains are very fertile, because majority of the rivers should be draining in a sea, either towards the east or towards the west. So when rivers are draining into the sea, the silt or else the alluvial deposits which was done by the sea will make that particular land as an fertile land, okay. So because of that reason, even coastal plains are also the fertile lands, okay. So we are having two coastal plains, from one in western side, one in eastern side. Then the next important feature is plateaus. So if you see this plateau, see, to the south and the northern plains lies the peninsular plateau. That means see, to the southern side and northern side, the central India, this particular India, the physical feature we call it as an plateau, because plateau is nothing but it is an higher land. So when compared to the sea level, the height will be somewhat higher, okay. And if you see, we are having many plateaus in India, and Vindhya and Satpura plateau and Vindhya and Satpura ranges are important plateaus that we are having. And so on this plateau we will be finding major rivers that were flowing, okay. And even this Narmada and Tapi rivers will be flowing through these plateaus. Then the next important physical feature is islands. So if you see island, what is meant by island? Island is something which is covered with water on its four sides. So now if you consider India, India is having islands on the both sides. Both sides. See, if you see here, in this picture you will be finding islands. You will be finding islands in Bay of Bengal, as well as you will be finding islands in Arabian Sea. So in Bay of Bengal we are having Andaman Nicobar Islands. In Arabian Sea we are having Lakshadweep Islands. Okay. So the nature of formation of these islands are different. If you see this Lakshadweep Island, mostly they are formed because of coral activities. And if you see Andaman and Nicobar, some of the islands are formed because of volcanic activities. Some islands are formed because of the continuation of these Himalayas. Some islands are formed because of this coral activity. Okay, we are not going into that detail. So those details will be seen in the next upcoming classes. But now what we have to understand is India is having islands on both the sides. In the western side we are having Andaman and Nicobar Island, and to the eastern side we are having Andaman and Nicobar. To the western side we are having Lakshadweep Islands. Okay. And now what we have to understand is, see, most of the majority of the rivers that were generated in India, that were flowing in India, they will be flowing towards their eastern side. Okay, if you take Krishna river, or else if you take Godavari river, or in case if you take Brahmaputra, Ganga, all these rivers will be originating at a point and they will be traveling to the eastern side, and at the end they will be merging with the Bay of Bengal. Okay. And there are certain rivers which flows towards the west. For example, Narmada and Tapi, they will be originating in central India and they will be flowing towards the west, and finally they will be draining into Arabian Sea. Okay, that is the point there. So because of presence of a huge diversity of physical features in India, so we will be having a different climatic zones. So from starting to north and ending at the end, if you see, in north we will be having huge cold region because of presence of this Himalayas, and when you are coming towards the southern side, you will be able to feel the tropical climate because of presence of Tropic of Cancer in central India. Okay, so in India we will be finding extreme cold conditions, and when you are traveling to the southern side you will be finding extreme hot conditions. And if you see the vegetation and the other plantation or vegetation in India, the majority of the forests that were found in India, they were tropical deciduous forest, and you will be seeing tropical evergreen forest as well. Even if you see in northeast India, you will be finding tropical evergreen forests. Okay, and even India is having a desert. Okay, so because of presence of all these physical features in one country, we can tell that see, we are having diversity in these physical features. Okay, because of this reason we can say that this diversity in physical nature of the physical features that were present in India, we can tell that there is a huge difference between lifestyles, huge difference between the economic prosperity in India. Okay, so that is what it is mentioned in this particular chapter. So we have taken important content which is given in this particular chapter, and we will be, by this I think 6th class NCERT will be finished. So I hope that you all understood, and we will be meeting in next class. In next class we will be seeing the 7th class NCERT of geography. So until then, thank you so much for watching this video.